Great. Thanks a lot, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening for whichever time zones you are joining in from. Thanks for showing up today for the healthcare webinar. I hope all of you are having a fantastic day till now. Today, we will kickstart this event with a very exciting topic, the future of digital health, innovations in healthcare technology. We are really excited to have all of you here. Let me begin by introducing myself and AI CoreSpot as a company to you. So my name is Nitin Naveen. I'm Vice President Innovation Strategy at AI CoreSpot. With around couple of decades of experience in different consulting firms dealing with a lot of emerging technologies, right from blockchain till testing and now AI, ML, AR, VR, I feel fortunate to consistently engage with numerous stakeholders, global leaders, and their incredible problem solving and innovative ideas. Joining me today are a couple of my colleagues, Arvind and Naveen, who will add some energy to this event. A big applause to them for their dedication and hard work to bring this webinar in shape. Now, let me tell you something about our company, which is AI CoreSpot. It was founded around 4 years back, and it was created to serve as a knowledge hub, focusing on different emerging technologies like AI, ML, Gen AI, robotics, IoT, and much more. Our webinars aim to share the latest technological advancements in the industry. We dive into various tech sectors, unveiling a fresh theme every month and steadily gaining momentum. Our goal as a platform is to become the leading AI driven community worldwide where individuals like you with similar interests can contribute to mutual growth and success. We are committed to organizing industry backed webinars, hybrid events, face to face events, which ground our knowledge through credible data from different industry leaders, subject matter experts, thought leaders, and our trusted partners. Additionally, we fine tune our content also across various digital platforms which we have. It includes blogs, videos, podcasts, and newsletters, which shed light on the ever evolving industry. Now, coming about today's webinar for which you all are here for, as I said in the beginning, a really exciting topic is up for today, which is pioneering the future of healthcare, digital innovation at its core. Our speakers will provide details and deep dive in few pointers like the role of technology, digital tools, telemedicine, the risks and ethical considerations which is going on around in the healthcare industry. Our expert panel will share valuable insights and engage in thought-provoking discussions that you don't want to miss out for. Now let's kick off the discussion with some quick highlights. With our community partners for today, we have some great companies, three great companies, which includes Kaiser Permanente, Community First Health Plans, and Infovision, who played a crucial role in making this webinar a success. Also, a big thanks to all our attendees. Your time and presence means a lot to us. We appreciate your being here to achieve your goals and connect with fellow participants. Our platform's main goal is to help you gain valuable insights and build meaningful relationships. So if you leave with a few innovative ideas or build some new connections, we'll consider it a great job. Now, let me introduce our esteemed speakers for today. Our first speaker is Madhur Pandey, the former SVP Digital Products at Optum Health and Executive Director Product at Kaiser Permanente. Our next speaker for today is Ram Bulusu, who is AI and Digital Executive and AI and Cybersecurity GTM and Senior Board Advisor. Our third speaker is Shauna Zanriba. She is Director of Data Analytics at Community First Health Plans. And both speaker and moderator for the event is Sandeep Punjani, who is Vice President, Healthcare and Life Sciences at Infovision. So I just want to put one-liner disclaimer before we start this webinar. The views shared by the speakers are their personal ones, and it's not related to any organization which they represent for. So now over to you, Sandeep, to begin this exciting panel discussion.
Thank you, Nitin. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's exciting webinar on the future of digital health innovations in healthcare technology. Today, we'll discuss the challenges and opportunities that come with these advancements in the technology and discuss the future landscape of digital health. Let me start with Shauna. Shauna, what do you think? How is the use of technology evolving in healthcare organizations? And is it helping in a better patient engagement?
It is, and I can speak to some of the partnerships that we have at Community First Healthcare with that particular initiative. So we recently completed a project for maternity health monitoring and looking at a lot of our patients who are high risk or, who are undergoing, certain journeys with their pregnancy. We were able to create certain flags. We've been able to improve outreach. We've been able to partner with local resources like Communicare to increase that patient engagement. Talking about things like AI, patient wearables, being able to do predictive analytics has been absolutely game changing. And we're now moving that into the behavioral health space with scoping out a very similar model there. The evolution of telehealth and patient portals has really been a huge impact as far as being able to engage patients and what we're doing to be able to engage our providers, on the services that they're providing and being able to give them an insight into the patient journey, whether that patient might stay with that particular provider or go somewhere else. We're able to give them some insight, from the insurance space they might not otherwise have. So it's definitely evolving, and there's so much opportunity for AI to continue to innovate in that space.
Okay. So let me to Madhur. Madhur, what type of patient engagement technologies have shown the most promise in improving the health outcomes?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Sandeep. And before I jump in, I would just like to do a quick intro again. Thank you, Naveen, for doing it. So for the audience, I'm a product and technology leader with extensive experience in conceptualizing, building, and delivering B2B and B2C healthcare products. And over the last 9 years or so, my expertise has been in understanding the healthcare ecosystem, applying my understanding of technology, both established and new, like AI, ML, to really solve for not only the patient, provider, and payer, but also to drive the business outcomes, right? Because ultimately, businesses need to grow, they need to reduce cost, and they need to support the providers. So this is a really important question and at the center of the work that I've been driving for both Kaiser Permanente and Optum Health, and just wanted to give a quick background. So when we think about patient engagement technologies, right, and we really think about what does that mean, they are helping patients be more empowered to take control of their health, right? And that's really powerful because they're educating the patients, they are able to share information, they're able to communicate with their provider teams, and they are able to better manage their health and therefore have better health outcomes. So like Shauna said, so building on what Shauna was talking, right? The technologies that are showing the most promise, absolutely AI as a technology enabler is going to be a disruptor and is going to do so much more. From a patient engagement tools perspective, patient portals and applications, huge. I think that's table stakes almost now, but it's still the best way for a care team to engage with the patients. At Kaiser Permanente, we were seeing very high registration rates, which were upwards of 80%. So it's actually equivalent of banking industry. So it was really important. I mean, it's a good data set to keep in mind that even in healthcare, it is possible to see that level of registration and engagement if you have the right tool and it's built and it's providing value to the patients. It is used by providers to communicate. So that's definitely one patient engagement tool that's really effective and is being used effectively to manage preventative reminders, to make sure that people are getting appointment reminders, patient can see their test results. The second engagement tool that I would like to call out is remote patient monitoring. So these are wearable devices, connected devices that are really helping with chronic condition management. So Shauna mentioned maternity, right? At Kaiser too, there was a whole initiative around maternity because it's such an important topic. Same thing for diabetes or COPD or heart failure. Like these chunky problems, again, with the use of these wearable devices, where there is early intervention possibilities, clinical intervention, constant monitoring, health organizations, payers, patients, everybody's seeing the benefit because it's helping your population stay healthy. And that ends up helping the community and overall reducing the cost of care delivery. The other one I will quickly mention, Sunny, before I stop, is the medication management space. Again, a lot of patient engagement tools when it comes to medication adherence, pill boxes, applications, and again, all of them helping these patients who sometimes are taking an average of 10 to 12 pills a day to manage those medications better and be strong, good with their adherence, and reducing some mix-up with that can happen with medication mix.
Okay, thanks. So there are a lot of tools that are coming and emerging. I would like to ask Ram that do you see that these tools help address the healthcare access barriers for the underserved communities?
Yeah, definitely. I think the first time we really saw widespread use of telehealth was during the pandemic. But if you step back, the 3 A's of healthcare come into play with telehealth. So you've got affordability, availability, and accessibility. Availability of healthcare in the US, we are maybe more used in urban areas to have access when we need it. But if you think of globally, a lot of communities don't have locally available healthcare experts. And telehealth has really given the opportunity for people to engage with their healthcare providers or laboratory settings or dispensaries in a remote setting. That makes it more available. Now, you also have to think about affordability. So one of the biggest challenges with healthcare providers is they only have a certain amount of time to be available each day, and after-hour services tend to be more expensive. So with telehealth opportunities, I've also seen the cost come down per visit per provider. And where you have availability, you have affordability, that helps a lot. In terms of accessibility, that honestly, I never thought about accessibility, certainly here in the United States, because we have access to healthcare providers when we need it. But during the pandemic, that really brought it out globally that, hey, you can have access to your healthcare provider after hours, on the weekends, in an emergency, regardless of where you are. If you're in a situation where you physically cannot go to the physician, either because you're sick or because there's a pandemic restriction. So availability, accessibility, affordability, all these three things have really been supercharged with telehealth. That's just the first stage. And the next stage, as many of you may have noticed, in terms of things like your radiology readings or your x-rays, these aspects of health are also being handled through telehealth, where sometimes it takes as much as 3 days or 4 days or a week for a radiology reading to be completed, because the x-rays in the old days used to have to be physically transmitted and so on. Now, it's easy to go to New York to hospital and get your x-ray done, and the radiologist in Bangalore can read it for you, and within 24 hours you have your diagnosis back. So not just the direct interaction with the healthcare providers, but also the support functions that go in with healthcare. So they've really become supercharged. To me, we're still at the first 5-10% of utilization of telehealth. As that progresses, I would expect in the next 12, 18, 24 months, it's almost going to become the norm to have telehealth engagements with your providers, and going in person may become less common. So it's very exciting to see that.
So we definitely see in cities, yes. So I'll move to Shauna. Shauna, what do you think this telehealth services play in improving the patient engagement in underserved areas also? And do you think that that improves the care continuity for the patients?
I do. I think that the data tells a really interesting story in that particular realm. So, for example, one preference we've noticed among most of our patients, especially for generalized appointments or healthcare, is going to be the telehealth space. It's more convenient, and it still allows us to collect very good data. But the caveat to that is you have to have a really solid patient portal setup. Organizations that are lacking that very solid setup on a patient portal are not going to get any kind of genuinely good data. The secondary piece to that is monitoring what's happening on those telehealth appointments. So I see it with a lot of our partners Some partners really advocating for, only in-person appointments. And I see some of that too in the behavioral health space, concerning, because the patients are very clearly expressing through the data that they prefer telehealth mechanisms and patient portals and being able to feel more in charge of their own healthcare journey. I think that that's really the ultimate goal here is giving the patient the ability to feel like they are in charge of their healthcare journey. So many patients feel so confused navigating, their healthcare space. Things that providers might do every single day that are commonplace to them. The patients have no idea. Where do I go? Who do I talk to? What is it that I'm signing? What is it that I'm supposed to do? And one thing we're really investigating now, but I'm very cognizant of the data privacy piece to it, is being able to share the true patient journey with our community partners. So, being able to get the right data governance in place to say, okay, I need you to sign this release saying that we can share with other, our other partners, your health information to paint a more total picture of their experience. But when it comes to what is the secret sauce or what is the recipe for people to feel comfortable in this day and age, it's to help them feel like they are in charge of their own healthcare journey. And I think that sometimes providers forget that. So I think that that's something we can definitely improve upon. But providers, I think providers, hospitals, it doesn't matter. I mean, even LMHAs, you have to look at the data and see what the data is telling you that your patients are preferring. And I think that's where I see a lot of our community partners dropping the ball, because they want to do things the way they've always been done. And you have to leave that space to innovate and create and give the patients what it is they're asking for. I mean, otherwise they're going to go find somebody who will.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks. So moving to Madhur, it is quite clear that the use of telemedicine is increasing in the healthcare ecosystem. How do you see this shaping up in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. So great points by Ram and Shauna. And I really like the way Shauna said, right, you have to make patient feel in charge. They are driving the bus. And I think telemedicine, giving them options does that. And then they can choose. Like it was, I'll just quickly digress, or not digress, but on the topic. Like, it used to be a constant debate within my previous organization, which is who knows best? Does the doctor know the best, or does the patient know the best? And I don't know how many of us who are in this call would agree. Like, if I feel like I have a 911 situation, would I be actually going through a chat box sitting in front of my desktop? No, I would really pick up the phone and call 911. So it just goes to the point that we are equipped to make some basic decisions about our health, whether I need to be an ER or do I need to an appointment and I can wait for a week. So it's a healthy debate between the provider and the technologist in the organization in terms of what needs to happen. Telemedicine is on the rise. Behavioral health is one area where we are seeing significant growth. Like if you compare, because during pandemic we saw an peak, right? And that was created because you didn't have in-person appointments. That has stabilized, which is still more than the pre-pandemic era. But behavioral health is really leveraging telemedicine to its fullest. Just to share some numbers, I think it was 40% of total telehealth visits used to be behavioral health in 2021. In Q3 of 2023, it's 67%. So again, it's going to Ram's point about access, right? We know we have a scarcity of behavioral health specialists. We know it is hard and it's easily available over telehealth platforms. So from a trend perspective, behavioral health, which is such a huge need in our country, in our community, we would continue to see the progression of telehealth. We're going to see AI play a bigger role and really improving the telehealth experience. When I was at Kaiser in early 2022, we launched the virtual care, 24/7 virtual care offering. And we did include AI-based symptom triage, meaning, traditionally it is first in, first out. So you get in a queue to see a video visit or telephone visit. And depending on where you are in the queue, you will see the provider. What we did at Kaiser was it's based on your acuity level, meaning how severe are your symptoms, and based on that, you would have a shorter time to see a specialist, or you could wait for 2 hours, hopefully not, but 20 minutes to see a specialist. So I think we'll start seeing more of those type of solutions, powering the telehealth and making it more intelligent and better user friendly, I would say, right? So that's definitely AI being a friend. And the last one, I would call it again, the remote patient monitoring, right? They are TITO devices. So one of the biggest challenge with video visits or phone visits is that your doctor cannot touch you, feel you, take your vitals, right? So there is a lot of good work happening in terms of with connected devices and things like that, in terms of, can I ask your smartwatch to measure your BP? Can I have a connected thermometer measure your temperature? So I think that's another trend, Sandeep, which is going to keep making the telehealth experience better and right for certain segments. For certain patients, they have to come in. You do need to see a doctor. You do need a hospital stay. So it's right sizing it for the appropriate segment.
Sure. Yeah. The telehealth is the use of telehealth is increasing, and it is also evolving. But in Ram, what policy changes do you think are needed to support the long-term growth of this telehealth and and for the sustainability of telemedicine?
So a couple of things. I think, as Mother was pointing out, if you look at the evolution of telehealth, the policies have to keep up with it. Well, what does that mean? We're going to see an increasing trend of patients being given the ability to capture their physical parameters during the conversation with the doctor, electronically transmit them. There could also be situations when you're wearing a biosensor, whether it's a glucose sensor or an iWatch, or the Xio sensor for heart rhythm, and the physician can actually log into it when you're wearing it remotely and measure your parameters. When that happens, the HIPAA aspects come into play, the PHI aspects come into play. Your internet providers, who are now basically the information superhighway that they control, they're going to have significantly enhanced HIPAA and PHI and GDPR policies applied to their transmissions. The old VPNs and Zscalers will no longer be able to sustain the live transmission in a secure manner of your healthcare data because the risk is much higher. The other aspect of it is also health insurance companies are going to have to play a big role in, one, supporting how this data gets transmitted and agreeing to have it transmitted and taking on the risk. At the same time, the question becomes, do you really want your health insurance company to be privy to the specific conversations your physician is having with your patients remotely? Everything is electronic. So it's a double-edged sword. We want to enable patients more. We're going to have all manner of highly private data, especially on behavioral health, that's flying across the internet. And then bad actors can come into play to misuse the data. So the policies for HIPAA and GDPR and PHI need to be significantly enhanced to address this massive flood of data going globally that's very personal to individual patients. So that's one aspect. The other aspect I want to touch on here is, and this is something I'm personally working on, is we're going to see an increase in the use of electronic or AI-enabled therapy avatars. And it's picture a future three years or even 5 years down the road, where you're wearing your virtual reality kind of a headset as a patient, and you're engaging with a virtual therapist that mimics the behavior of a physician, at least for the initial intake, and discuss with, hey, what's happening to you? How are you doing? And what are your primary patients? And that electronic therapist can also triage your scenario to the right provider in the telehealth platform. So as those futures come in, you're going to have the policy. Today's policies can't handle that. There's no policy today that tells you how should you engage with the electronic therapist. But as this technology supercharges, policies have to keep up with it, and those policies have to be driven by, say, the Food and Drug Administration, for instance, to make it very rigid and robust. So it's exciting. It's a double-edged sword. We're going to find some situations where some engagements with patients and healthcare providers breach those policies, but today's policies are not adequately robust to support full-blown telehealth engagements.
Yeah, in fact, the policy changes are needed, and the technology is also evolving. The use of AI and machine learning is also increasing. So I'll go to Shauna now to um, Shauna, if you can share how can AI and machine learning improve the efficiency of clinical workflows without overwhelming the providers?
I think that with the inception of AI and the popularity of AI growing, there's a lot of resources on the market right now, and it's largely geared towards how can we deploy AI to automate, the note writing process. And what is good about that is, yes, it's going to increase efficiency for clinicians, maybe, not be as overwhelming for clinicians, but you have to maintain the reality that it's going to take a little bit of time and learning curve for them to get used to what that new process looks like. And on the flip side of that, you have to be cognizant of anything that is incorporating AI to not replace, but enhance or improve, what the human being is doing. You need to monitor that data, because any type of AI project that you want to run off of, that data set, if you have clinicians who are just putting in notes and clicking on normal things and all notes begin to look the same, that's going to really corrupt your data pool when you're trying to do, say, an NLP analysis, right? You're not going to really be able to get a lot of value out of it. So you have to look at both sides of the coin when you're deploying those things. Yes, is it going to improve efficiency? But what is it going to do to the data on the back end? So you have to make sure that whatever you're deploying to make the clinician's life easier, you're testing it from all sides of the spectrum. As far as, workflows, I have seen some very interesting workflows throughout my career, especially in the healthcare space. And many of those are geared to almost making life more complex than it needs to be. So I think it comes down to, hey, how can we leverage AI to improve a workflow? And that could be something as simple as putting in the right prompt and the right tool that says, okay, here's my workflow. How do I make this better? Use those as suggestions. And in one of the AI certification courses I'm taking, that's one thing that it really focuses on, is looking at these prompts to be a little bit different. And AI is never going to replace humans. I think that's still one of the biggest fears in the market. It's never going to replace human beings. There's always going to be a measure and level of human intervention required with AI and improvement of workflows and evaluation of workflows. But it's you have people on two sides of the coin in organizations where people are really scared of AI or people are really on the AI train. We need to meet in the middle. And that comes down to just education. So when it comes to streamlining workflows for clinicians, making things better and using AI to do it, it's got to be a really solid partnership between leadership and the clinicians, and then putting AI in the middle to make sure everyone understands what it can do and what it can't do. Because right now we think it can do everything and it can do a lot, but over time we're going to find, okay, maybe it can't do all this stuff. Maybe it's not the right answer for all of these items. So it's all about, monitoring, testing, and still collaborating as humans, I think, first and foremost.
Sure. Yeah. So, Mother, why tool enhance the clinical workflows rather than disrupting them?
Yeah, I mean, everything Shauna said, right, is spot on. I think as technologists, sometimes we forget, right? We see the shiny object of like AI. I'm very bullish on AI, by the way, but it's a reality. We just fall in love with the technology. We forget that technology is an enabler to get to an end goal, right? So it has the promise of creating operational efficiency. It has the promise of better diagnosis or helping with better diagnoses. It has the promise of reducing physician burnout. But for it all to happen, it cannot overwhelm an already overwhelmed system, right? Your hospital systems, your emergency rooms, your medical office buildings, they are complicated beast. There is a workflow that is going on and it's life and death. So when we are thinking about bringing AI to an environment like healthcare, it needs to be very thoughtful, purposeful. We need to engage with the right stakeholders, which includes your physicians, leadership, technology team, identify the right use case that we want to apply it to, We have to iterate, we have to run pilots. There's a whole change management aspect of it, which is training, onboarding, gaining the trust of the people who are using it, having that transparency, that human in the loop, right? That physician reviews, ability to override. So all those need to go to scale and really see the benefits from AI or AI solutions. We went through this cycle when we did virtual care launch for Kaiser. I've been part of the cycle when inbox management, and it would be interesting for folks in this call to know that inbox management is a huge time consumer for these care teams. We enabled sending simple emails for the patient through the patient portal, but what's it created in the back end is a lot of time being spent in responding to those emails. So AI seems like a perfect solution to solve for it, right? You can read the email, understand the email. Can you prioritize the email? Most of them are refill requests. Can they go to a different operational flow? Some of them are critical and they need to be top of the inbox. They need physician feedback. So where I'm going is like, there are these use cases, really powerful use cases that AI can help with, but it needs to be done in a way where it doesn't disrupt the existing work, doesn't overwhelm the existing users, and need to work for the people that we are saying it's going to be effective for. So I think it just needs to happen in a collaboration and a combination of these things, or this construct.
Thanks. So Shauna, you come with a very strong data and analytics background. I would like to know how do the ethical considerations come into play when using data for healthcare analytics, especially with the AI?
Oh, there's so many considerations when it comes to that. That's a great question. I've been doing data for a minute, probably since before it was cool, many years without aging myself. I'd say about 16 years or so. I love statistical analysis, and I love rolling up my sleeves and getting into the data with my team still to this day. I think there's a lot of ethical considerations, largely when it comes to, PHI and the sharing of information. I have a lot of, population health specialists who get very excited about, sharing patient data with other providers. And I have to kind of narrow it down and say, okay, let's rein it in a little bit and let's make sure we're taking those ethical considerations into place. There's a lot of people who will send PII data, over a chat or in an email, right? And not de-identify that data. So there are so many ethical considerations, and a lot of those come down to, education of your stakeholders, education of the people who are working with the data. And it has to be consistent, and it has to be relevant to them for I think them to be able to, understand it. When it comes to AI, again, I can't stress enough, whatever data set you're going to use with AI, the ethical considerations, you need to make sure that the AI technology that you're deploying or using within your organization is compliant, with the relevant regulatory bodies, obviously. But more than that, you need to make sure that whatever data you're feeding into that AI is clean, has been validated, has been, vetted through the right sources. Are you working with the data in the right way? Because you can make AI say almost anything you want, depending on what you put in it. It learns, and the better the data that goes in, the better the predictions that can come out of it. But I've also seen the flip side of that, where you can put very, dirty data into an AI model, and you get some very skewed results. So there's ethical considerations from a technological perspective. There's ethical considerations from a, day-to-day workflow perspective from providers and clinicians. And, then there's the ethical consideration of the data privacy and caring for like what we term as our members, in my space, but in, other spaces, clients, patients, consumers, however you want to word it. But there's ethical considerations across the board. And I think that the stronghold of being able to manage that is having a really solid data governance platform, really solid steering committees that can review and then create policy and, disperse that to organizations appropriately. But it all starts at the top, right? It all starts at what is the buy-in from the leadership from, any organization on being able to enact those policies, because nobody's going to take it seriously unless they're hearing it from the leaders in that organization.
And Ram, you have also been involved in so many AI initiatives. What has been your experience?
So we all know that there's a big difference between data and information, right? Data is just a bunch of numbers. And what we humans are good at is analyzing data, developing information and insights from it. And what we're trying to do is to get AI to analyze data and give us information. So certainly to what Chana was mentioning, we have to be very careful about what kind of data we feed and so on. Where the Food and Drug Administration has come in is they've said, perfectly okay to use AI, we support it only for predisposition of information, but not final decision making. Eventually, we're going to push the limit of that. If you look at who's actually using AI, who's investing in it, large corporations, for-profit corporations are investing in AI tools to be able to make things more efficient, both for their customers as well as certainly for their corporations driven by profit, which is okay. And so I would not say that there's a corporation that's going to use AI unethically. I don't think that's anybody's intention. But your algorithms are going to be designed to give you the outcome that you're seeking. So there was some recent cases around large insurance companies like United Healthcare, who was one of the pioneers of the industry to start using AI to speed up dispositions around insurance payment requests. Their intention was very clean. We are holding up a lot of disposition cases. We want to speed them up. We don't have enough people. Let's bring in AI. Unfortunately, through no one's ill intention, the AI algorithms used by United Healthcare ended up causing denial of patient care. So this is the kind of thing that happens when AI is unleashed to make decisions. And so how do we put sort of a governance around AI tools that can mimic the ethical behavior of a human being? That's not in place yet. So it's, on the one hand, we don't want to hold back technology because we're going to run out of people to make decisions for healthcare companies if we say every single thing has to be done by an individual human being. We want to automate further. We want to use AI more. But the current set of AI algorithms are still, I wouldn't even call them beta version. They're still literally in zero R&D stage. So in the next 3 to 5 years, you're going to see many more sophisticated AI algorithms that are going to be developed based on mistakes made, bad decisions made, and eventually they're going to get more robust. The only way to build ethical considerations to AI is to mimic the thinking pattern of a human and make those algorithms more refined. At the same time, I certainly would look to organizations like the Food and Drug Administration and the American Medical Association and other similar bodies globally to put in more robust policies on how do you actually validate and test your AI algorithms to make sure you have a high probability of an ethical outcome. You can't guarantee 100%, but if you can get to 75, 85, 95%, the ethical subroutines will need to be built into your AI tools. We're not there yet. So the key ethical consideration is when AI is translating data into information, how do you make it mimic an ethical human being?
Sure. And when you're using or building the AI models, you need to take into consideration that diverse data representation. So Madhur, you have been building the products, building those AI models. So how do you ensure the diverse data representation when developing these AI models?
Yeah, great question, Sandeep. So that's always top of mind, right? These are the way AI works, as we all know, it's ingesting all these complex data and trying to create information out of it. So the data needs to be diverse. It needs to be well represented, both from a demographic perspective, but also from the system source. So when I was with Kaiser or even Optum Health, the focus was always on making sure that depending on the use case that we are like, if there are clinical protocols, specifically, which is one use case that I was working on, we have information from hospitals, medical office buildings, government bodies, public health organizations, community data. And when it comes to demographics, again, you want a diverse set of age, gender, conditions, right? You want people which are healthy, non-healthy, comorbidities. If you're going after a certain specialty, then you want to make sure you have enough of that condition type so that it's a wide scope. So data is going to be key. I think some of the points that Sean and Ram were making is like, I think they're called hallucinations, AI hallucinations, but it's more like it's our biases that are feeding the data to these learning models, right? So how do we, through this awareness, through this data literacy, and people who are building these tools, going through, I think data governance is one, but now companies also have ethical review boards. So you have architecture review boards, you have data governance boards, now you have ethical review boards, which I think are really important to make sure that we unknowingly are not feeding our biases, or the data that is getting fed is not feeding biases to these AI.
And while the AI adoption is increasing, Shana, what do you think? What are the risks associated with the AI adoption in healthcare, and how they can be mitigated?
I think it kind of goes back to what I was touching on before, and even what other panelists have spoken about. It's not feeding the bias, because it's very easy to feed a bias. It's very easy for someone to look at data and say, hey, this is what I think is going on historically with data, or this is what we collected, with 90 days of data in 2021. So this is what I know to be true. And it's not always the case. You need to constantly evaluate your data, the sources, how are you using it? Why are you using it for that purpose? Really comes down to collaborating with the stakeholders, especially from a data analytics perspective. If you're not collaborating with the stakeholders and you're just taking a data set and running with it, or trying to extract some value out of it that you see as valuable, it's not necessarily valuable to the business. So the element and the key of making sure you're keeping all of that in check, I think, is the business acumen. So one thing I try to work with any team that I have on is making sure they understand the business acumen of it, the healthcare acumen of it, like what is the day-to-day, really have some empathy for that side of it. Otherwise, you're going to have analysts feeding their own bias. They're going to see something interesting in the data, and they're going to load that into, some kind of AI model and go, hey, look at what I can do. This is so cool. And it is cool, and it's interesting to learn, and it's a great test case, but it needs to stay a test case, right? You have to have some level and manner of oversight so that you don't have, folks running wild and then making assumptions with data. Like, I think a great example was our organization a couple of years ago used a tool called Poindexter. And what it did was you would throw data sets in there, and it would do an analysis and say, okay, based on this AI analysis of whatever data is in the system, this is your predictive health model, right? Like, this is how you could reduce admissions, or this is how you would have, less emergency visits. The problem was no one could get under the hood and justify how that AI was being translated. So, we opted as an organization to no longer use it. I think that there's a lot of tools out there that can do really cool things, but you have to evaluate it and make sure it's not feeding that bias.
Sure. Very true. So, Madhur, what do you think? How do you proactively identify potential risk before implementing AI solutions? And what are there any contingency plan you put in place to address the AI related risk if they arise?
Yeah, so like any new technology, we need to build the trust, right? So I would say, if I were to say, we need to run a risk assessment and a contingency plan in 4 core areas for any AI product. First one is tech, second is data, third is operations and process, and the last is regulatory and compliance, right? So when it comes to tech, you want to have system redundancy, you want to have monitoring and alarms, which is basic for any tech product. With AI, data is the core. The whole dialogue we've been having for the last 15 minutes or so is just highlighting that importance, right? So you want to make sure you have good data, you have clean data, you have unbiased data, you have diverse data. And how are you keeping that data secure? Because it's private information, it's PHI. So security and access and those kind of things also go into that data bucket in terms of the governance and sharing of information. The third one is process and operations, which is again very important because ultimately the audience that we are wanting to use and bring efficiency and cost savings for need to trust this information. So similar to Shauna's example, I have an example when we did the virtual care product, we were using an organization or vendor called Ada Health for that symptom triage, right? And I cannot tell you, and it was time well spent, but how many hours we spent with Kaiser physicians and they spend time with us in reviewing the recommendation algorithms, right? The clinical protocols of how Madur, who's 40 and healthy and is staying dizzy, versus Madur, who's 70, has high blood pressure and is staying dizzy, needs to be triaged. So that level of transparency is required to gain the trust of our physician partners, and rightly so, because these are life and death decisions and they need to be made in a very thoughtful way. So just operational, I would put as a third bucket where we need contingency plans and risk assessment. And there needs to be always an override. There needs to be a human in the loop, ability for physicians to go quick in, check in. And then even the rollout, right? How we roll out the product. It needs to be done in pilots. It needs to be iterative. Again, we need confirmation at every step. And then last but not the least is the regulatory and compliance. How do we make sure it's ethical? How do we have the governance in place to make sure we're not doing the unknown or unknowingly or biases in our AI models? So I would say those are the four that I would call out as risk and both contingency planning perspective.
Great. In fact, AI is also being used in the pharmaceutical side, the producer side. So Ram, you have some great experience in that area. What do you think how AI is helping the pharmaceutical companies to accelerate the drug discovery and the development?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that it's a fairly well-known fact that a pharma company to come up with a blockbuster drug from compound identification to commercialization takes 10 years and $10 billion, which is not very nice because you got people dying of disease and we don't have cures in time. Where AI is helping is in three areas. One is in doing advanced simulations with protein structures and molecular structures to predict the potential behavior of a drug in a human body, that's simulation. The second one is around speeding up clinical trials. Most of the drugs we want to create need to be able to apply to multiple demographics globally across different aging populations, different diets, different genetic makeups. And to do that, we need clinical trials to be run globally, concurrently, across tens of thousands of patients. Right now, it's extremely difficult to do that because depending on the geography you're involved with, your clinical trial data comes in sometimes manually, sometimes on paper, sometimes in action. AI is helping significantly in that area. So simulation, the other one is clinical efficiency. The third one is ultimately determining the success rate of your products when they actually do get made and approved. So those are three areas where AI is being seen as a high potential tool. To be fair, today we have not yet seen a drug discovery speed up directly as a result of AI, but some of the early indications are companies that are using AI tools like OpenAI has got a tool that they're using to help pharma companies identify potential clinical trial participants faster and higher volume. That's helping significantly. That is as far as the pharmaceutical side goes. Where you're seeing more progress with AI is SAMD, that is the software as a medical device. That's an area that is directly leveraging AI, and I think we recently had at least one approval of one early SAMD product. And so what that's doing is all of a sudden is having an army of researchers taking forever to come up with each individual software as a medical device, AI is speeding that up a lot. So I fully expect we're going to see shorter cycle times for development of drugs. And also in the very early stage, the pharmacokinetic stage, we're going to see a lot more simulation being sped up by using AI tools instead of spending a lot of time in the lab. And you might have seen the news recently, several companies have come up with this protein fold imaging that is done much faster by AI. Instead of actually doing the chemical analysis, the AI tool is actually going to go into the protein itself and show you how it behaves in a human body. So those are very exciting areas. We're far away from seeing the first drug approval driven by AI, but all indications of the speed and cycle times are coming down. So it's a very interesting area.
Yeah, that's quite interesting and fascinating. Madhur, I would like to know that what role the AI play in identifying the new therapeutic targets in the drug discovery? So,
Yeah, again, the promise is there, right? And the promise of AI to go through complex data sets and find hidden patterns is what would help with the target therapeutics. So taking a step back, what is a target therapeutic, right? It is a biological molecule, biological pathway, or a reaction, right, to a certain disease that responds to the drug that can treat it, so that can change the course of the disease. So finding that therapeutic is step one, right, in that drug discovery pipeline. And as you can imagine, it takes a lot of time and effort and research and a lot of points that Ram was talking about that go into this drug discovery. So AI is showing huge promise in that front in terms of quickly identifying these drug targets. And it is because that speaks to the strength of it. It's very early on, like Ram was saying, but it is showing immense promise in terms of what it can deliver. So some of the examples that are top of mind is like the DeepMind's AlphaFold that has done some revolutionary work in protein system predictions for druggable proteins to discover druggable proteins. Then there is IBM Watson that has helped with IBM Watson for drug discovery that is mining gene databases to, again, quickly identify or in an accelerated and more accurate manner, identify these drug targets. But yeah, the promise is there. Sandeep, I'm hopeful that it would scale and we would be able to see the benefits.
yeah, you brought an interesting point on the gene side. So the genomics side is also now evolving. So Ron, how can genomic-driven personalized medicine revolutionize the patient care?
So one of the biggest challenges we face is not only just analyzing the human genome, but also being able to analyze extremely high volumes of data and predicting what genetic mutations are going to trigger and how we can treat them using various therapies. The biggest challenge is the volumes of data are so extremely high and so complex, three-dimensional data, and AI is an absolutely ideal tool to do the analysis at speed. If you look at where the personalized medicine area is heading, a few years ago, cell and gene therapy was such a big deal, and large companies like Gilead and Novartis and others went into autologous gene therapies. This is where you take genetic material from an individual patient and you modify the genes in that genetic material, create injections, and feed back into the patient. That's great, except that it was costing $500,000 a dose, and it was causing additional infections to the patients that were not predicted. So the goal we have in the genomic space is really to go into allogenic gene therapies, where you can create very specific gene-modified technology. However, it has to be done in such a way that one dose can apply multiple genetic makeups. The only way we can get there is by running extremely high volume, high accurate predictions on what could happen if this particular gene mutation is introduced into a patient through genetic material in injection form. And the current tools are not able to run fast enough to provide good, accurate readouts. So AI is an absolutely critical tool to be able to do that. And the most important part is, if we look back 10 years, most of the genomic information was static. But the human genome is not static, it's evolving. So the AI tools we have to be able to absorb real-time data within maybe a few months delay, and be able to continually update your genome map, and then continue to predict what's going to happen to a patient when they ingest a particular type of genetic material. So AI is practically the only tool that can do that. It's very exciting. We're not there yet. I have seen in recent times some small startups here in the Bay Area who are looking at collecting and maintaining high volumes of genetic data, which is de-identified across global populations. And I'm starting to see some improvement in the accuracy of that from the early 20-30% to now to 50-60% through use of AI. That's a very exciting area.
Yeah, I'm sure there are some challenges also associated with integrating genomics into the routine clinical practices. Madhur, what are your views on integrating these genomics into the clinical practices?
Yeah, absolutely, Sandeep. It's a fascinating space. Even 3-4 years ago, at Kaiser Genomics, we have a whole team, a center, same thing for Optum Health. So there's a lot of value that people are seeing in examples that Ram was sharing. The challenge, right, it's not mainstream yet. And there are multiple reasons for it. Didn't have a tool like AI, which could go through and traverse through that much information that Ram was just talking about. At least we have that now. But I would still say from an infrastructure perspective, just data management, data sharing is a challenge. Most of these genomic data is sitting in standalone systems. It's not integrated to the electronic health records or EMRs that the physicians are using. So for physicians or clinicians to start using this information in day-to-day practice, that's what needs to happen, right? Also, there needs to be trusted clinical decision tools that these physicians can use to use this genomic data in prescribing or in treatment plans. And that trust needs to come. The challenge, the change management aspect that we've been talking about with these new technologies, it's not there yet. It will happen. It's not unsurmountable. None of these challenges are, but it's too early on. But again, it has huge promise. And I would just say that some regulatory policy changes need to happen too, because Ram mentioned the cost, right? That's huge. It is going to go down with AI, but insurance plans, cost, reimbursement, that is another aspect that needs to be thought through, designed to, again, make this genomic treatment more mainstream. And I would just say quickly, one last point is even the physician community, right? There are pockets that are working on it, but how can it go more to the other physicians, other clinicians, and it's ever changing, it's evolving, it's rapidly changing. So how can they stay abreast with all these changes and know how, so that they are prescribing the right treatment plans? So I think these are not insurmountable, but we need to talk to say that this mainstream or a scalable solution. But it's exciting for sure, with great promise.
Great. Thank you. I think we are at the top of the hour, and it has been great, engaging conversations, really excited. So we have a few minutes left, and where we would like to take the opportunity to take the questions from the audience side. I see the first question is, how do you balance between data collection, privacy concerns, and addressing concerns over bias in machine learning algorithms or AI in general? Shauna, you would like to take that?
Sure. Data collection, privacy, addressing concerns over bias. It all starts with data collection. 100% of the time. I've seen some organizations do it very well. I've seen some organizations who have some work to do in improvement on that. So look at your workflows first and foremost on how data is being collected. Make sure that everyone is doing it consistently and in the right way. Then you can address your privacy concerns, because how are you sharing your data? Who are you sharing it with? How often are you sharing it with them? One thing that really makes my eye twitch a little bit from time to time is when I see somebody just sending Excel sheets with patient information on it through an email. And I gasp a little bit, and then I have to restart my heart. People need to be educated about it, and you have to have guardrails in place so that, you can't just have people sending that data out to even sometimes people in the same organization, right? You've got to make sure that you have some policies around that. Bias in machine learning algorithms or AI in general, again, it goes back to garbage in, garbage out. When you are evaluating a data set to go into something, oftentimes, and I can say this being in the data space for such a long time, many times stakeholders think they know what they need, but they're not 100% sure what they need. So again, it goes back to that collaboration. You're never going to be able to fully eliminate that bias unless you have that full collaboration, which means not just one or two, stakeholders with a seat at the table. You got to talk it through. You have to say, okay, well, we want to look at this. And ultimately, I have to bring it back a lot of the time, with different stakeholders I work with. What is the business question you're really trying to answer? What is it that you're really trying to solve? And then that's how you can begin to create a, true data set that can eliminate some of that bias. And I can speak to that, especially with the maternity project that we're doing. And then, yesterday, even as we were talking about our behavioral health project, looking at someone's death date to determine, what is the correlation, or is there a correlation between, certain conditions, certain medication, certain seasonality, with hospital stays or discharges that can impact, or influence someone, taking their own life, which is unfortunate. So you really have to dig in deep and have those conversations.
If I can add one thing to that, the process of consent management needs to be completely overhauled, because today the way we admit to or agree to consent is that we fill out a form and say, I agree to have my data used for such and such purposes. When a human being looks at that consent form, he or she will make a decision based on, yes, I can only use this data for the purpose that it was consented for. But machine learning algorithms don't know that. So we have to find a way to take the consent management restrictions and build them into the ML workflow. That's what's really going to put an electronic block from the ML algorithm doing something it's not supposed to do outside the consent.
Right. Now, moving on to the next question, that is on the security side. So with the rise of Internet of Medical Things, how do we address the increasing threats of cyber attacks? Ram, you can take that.
So this is a very interesting topic, because when it comes to AI, the current suite of cybersecurity platforms across the globe were never designed with the proliferation of AI in mind. And if the cyber threat is coming in through, say, a bad actor who's using a popular AI tool made by, say, Microsoft or Google or something else, many of the cybersecurity platforms will not catch that intrusion because they think, okay, it's coming from a legitimate player. So the first step is really to overhaul the cyber architecture that manages data flow in and out of the boundary of whatever your organization may be. Some companies like Palo Alto Networks are innovating in the space of hardware-based firewalls. The challenge is, where is the software-based cybersecurity tool that can evolve as fast as the cyber threats are evolving? We have a gap there. Some very small companies such as LRTI, whose board I'm on, they're trying to come up with a software-based tool. And what the cyber companies are learning is, I can't create a traditional static cybersecurity tool that's designed for 20 or 30 or 100 different kinds of intrusions. I need to create a cybersecurity tool that's going to evolve as fast as AI and ML threats. And for some reason, it seems that in cybersecurity world, the bad actors always seem to be faster and smarter when it comes to how to intrude. And so the good actors need to catch up with that. So overhauling the cybersecurity architecture, implementing more robust cybersecurity training and policies for employees, and putting in dynamic, real-time, evolving software-based cybersecurity tools. That's the solution. Right now, we have a gap, and I think a lot of cybersecurity companies are working very hard to address that gap. And make no mistake, it's a risk. It's a risk that's out there, and we should see the solution in a few years.
Thanks. The other question from the audience side is, what do you envision as the innovation that will have the greatest impact on moving the needle in improving outcomes? So, Madhur, you want to take that?
Yeah, absolutely. I can get started. So I'll say two, right? One more short term, one longer term. So in the short term, I think virtual medical assistants. Sandeep, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. In between, there was some gap for me, but we can hear you now. Go ahead. Oh,
Yeah, my video is all crazy. I'm like,
okay.
frozen.
Don't worry. Maybe Ram, you can take that one. So the innovation that will have the greatest impact on moving the needle in improving the outcomes. What are your thoughts?
If you're looking at patient outcomes, if you think of, I like to look at AI, because AI is the ultimate empowerment tool. By enabling AI-based technologies to both continuously monitor a patient's body using, say, biowearables, making those parameters available in real time or near real time in electronic medical records, electronic health records, and present a physician before every appointment with, here's the patient's vitals for the last 2 months or 6 months or 1 hour or 2 hours, and here's what I, as AI model, is predicting is a correct treatment plan. So what we're going to see is innovation in continuous monitoring of human bodies, data being presented in a graphic and analyzed form to physicians so they can make faster decisions. And the next stage is for more education of patients themselves to be able to self-diagnose everything from continuous glucose monitors or the Zio heart monitor or wearable sensors potentially implanted under your skin. So human beings will start getting more electronic readouts on your iPhones and things to say, hey, what's happening with your body? Everything from I ate a donut, is my sugar spiking? Well, I need some insulin, to, okay, my heart rate has been lower than before. So the biggest innovation I see to improve patient outcomes is empowerment of patients by providing real-time data, not only to the patient, but also to the physician. So at any given time, you know where your health stands.
I think we have time for one more last question. And the last question, that is, in what way could quantum computing transform drug discovery? And what new possibilities might it unlock in the healthcare innovation? Ram, your thoughts on that?
So for the biggest, like we have said before, sorry, that was addressed to me, right, Sandeep?
Yeah.
So the biggest challenge in drug development, especially around gene therapies, which is the cutting edge area for healthcare, is high volume data analysis and accurate simulations. That's where we constantly fail. And it's very exciting to see the quantum computing aspect. Even if you look at what Google announced recently, you're starting to see three-dimensional analysis of how a particular molecule can behave once it enters the body. The current state of simulations are pretty slow. And I think quantum computing's promise is it can do real-time 3D analysis across billions of data points, not only simulating how is this drug supposed to behave in an ideal environment, but how is it going to behave in a non-ideal environment in a patient who has multiple infections running at the same time. And the current computing environment is too slow to do that, and quantum is the way to go. It's very exciting to see the speed at which quantum chips are running. We're not there yet, but that's very promising.
Madhur, I see you are back. Any thoughts from your side?
Yeah, actually, sorry, technical issues. Hopefully it's better. So, Sunny, for the pharmaceutical one, right? I would just reiterate the target discovery, the therapeutic targets. Again, seeing some great advancements there in Alzheimer's, as well as other work that I mentioned with DeepMind, AlphaFold, and the IBM Watson. So we'll continue to see progression there. I just wanted to quickly go back to the question that I was starting to answer but couldn't, which is around the innovation and moving the needle in health outcomes. The short term, I think, use of user agents, AI-enabled medical assistants and user agents, I think that is more mature. It's already happening in other industries with call centers. We will see it making an impact in healthcare for sure. And that should solve for the patient that is running pillar to post trying to find answers in this broken, fragmented healthcare journey. In the longer term, I would say it is the real-time decision-making, data availability, both for the physicians and for the patients to take better control of their health, to take better care of their patients. So I think those are the two trends, both short-term and long-term, that I would say would move the needle.
Great. Thanks, thanks everybody, and thank you to the audience for joining us today. It has been an inspiring session. I'm sure you would have gained some more insights. And I would like to thank on behalf of our incredible speakers and the entire team here. And I want to thank you once again for your participation. We hope this session sparked some new ideas, conversations, and you feel inspired to contribute to the future healthcare technology. We look forward to staying connected, and we continue to shape the future of digital health together. Until then, take care and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible in the healthcare. Over to you, Nitin.
Thank you, Sandeep, and a great appreciation to all our community partners and all our speakers who took their time for this event. Madhur, Ram, Shauna, and obviously Sandeep for moderating it extremely well. Audience who I'm sure who kept their horses for 1 hour, and I'm sure they have engaged in this forum in a long way. We are sure the way we went into the minute details of all the topics, discussed key matrices, discussed in details about the future of digital health innovation and healthcare technology. It has given lots of knowledge enrichment to all of us and thought process to take back and put the same into practice into our areas where we are or want to work for. Our panel members, as I said in the beginning, were outstanding, and we value their willingness to collaborate and share the valuable insights. Just in case you missed any part of today's session and want to revisit it later part of the year or month, today's event will be available on our company's YouTube page for your convenience. As exciting technological advances are on the horizon, we are thrilled as a company to explore more in the coming year, 2025. Looking ahead, we have diverse lineup this year. Next year, focusing on sectors such as banking, financial, insurance, telecom, retail, healthcare, supply chain, manufacturing, and much more. So stay connected with us for this continuous learning. For more technological updates, visit our website and social media channels. We'll be sharing a wealth of knowledge, including details, announcements for upcoming events, and much more, aiding you in getting the registration done. We look forward to your support. Please like and share our content on the social media channels. It gives us a lot of boost. A heartfelt thanks to InfoVision, who is our knowledge and innovation partner, and Digit7, who is our technology partner. To explore more, go to their website, which is infovision.com, to delve deeper into the technological advancements. We thoroughly enjoyed bringing this session to you and hope you found it as enjoyable as we did. We eagerly anticipate more sessions with you in the near future. Happy New Year 2025 in advance to everyone who is there in the call. Take care and have a great day and year ahead. Thank you.
Happy holidays. Yeah.